Welcome to the Stairway to Heaven. We're coming to you, bringing insights into the ever-changing high-frequency currents now bathing the planet and affecting us all. The source of vital information for the evolving human being. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Unearthing intuition. One of the major challenges of intense transformation and evolution is the resulting unpredictability. Everything expresses according to frequency, so when frequencies shift drastically, all the formerly tried and true rules undergo radical change. An example of this phenomenon, let's consider the nature of water. At sea level and a frequency or temperature above 0 degrees and below 100 degrees Celsius, water is a liquid. Liquids have consistent properties that we can rely on. Over 100 degrees Celsius, water enters a gaseous state, and the rules change. One can no longer float in it, bathe in it, or drink it. If not handled properly, it can burn our skin. While these changes are predictable and express their own reliable attributes, the properties of a gas are different from that of a liquid. For millennia, we've been in a limited bandwidth of frequency that supported a particular expression, such as a water being liquid. As the frequency rises, just like water becoming gaseous, the rules change. While all of us have seen water become steam and understand the rules of its new properties, it's been so long since the Earth has been bathed in this level of increased frequency, we have no recorded history of the time or what it involves. It's not that the new format lacks rules. We simply don't know what they are, leaving us floundering. So how do we find our way in this new format? By engaging old and almost atrophied part of our human nature, intuition. As animals rely on instinct, humans can rely on intuition. However, there is a problem. Not only do we need to access and decipher the information provided by our intuitive senses, we also need to clear the debris that makes our intuition unreliable. This debris consists of beliefs, patterns, triggers, and defense mechanisms we have stockpiled for generations, as individuals and as a race. Currently, it's difficult to tell if we're detecting clear and present danger with our intuitive senses or being triggered into old damage by a similar but harmless stimulus in the present. For instance, a couple of years ago, I slipped on the ice, fell, and broke my back. I was alone on 48 acres of mountainous property, and it was extremely cold. I had to push through intense pain and roll on the icy ground until I could reach my purse and cell phone to call for help. I lay there on the ice, becoming increasingly hypothermic as I waited for the ambulance to travel the distance to reach me. Long story short, the accident and recovery were very traumatic. Just the other day, I put on a long green winter dress in preparation for a trip to town. From the moment I put the dress on, I sensed intense danger, feeling as though something really, really bad was just about to happen. The feeling intensified the closer I got to leaving the house until I noticed I was wearing the same dress that I'd worn when falling and breaking my back. It was the first time I'd had it on since the accident. Once realizing my fear was being triggered from past trauma by association with the dress rather than an intuitive sensing in the present, I was able to put my feelings in perspective and go on about my business. I made a mental note to do shamanic work in the near future to clear the remaining trauma. Conversely, the other day, I was driving up the canyon and had just entered a blind curve when I felt there was something dangerous in the road ahead of me. Though I was driving at a reasonable rate for the conditions, I further reduced my speed. As I rounded the curve, a large herd of deer was in the road ahead. Had I not slowed down, I would not have been able to avoid hitting them. Now that was intuition. We all have intuition. It's standard issue. The question is, how deeply is it buried? The answer, know thyself. While undergoing shamanic healing to clear old patterns and defense mechanisms and receiving psychotherapy to process beliefs and feelings around past trauma is very useful, there's no substitute for introspection. When feelings come up, instead of just shrugging and pushing forward or freezing in place, convinced danger lurks, take the time to look around. Is there something in the present that may have triggered a past trauma? At first, it may not be obvious, like my seemingly harmless dress. I really had no idea I still carried trauma from my fall, so it took me some time to noodle it out. On the other hand, it's always wise to err on the side of caution. While I'm sure my slowing down on the curve enraged the truck driver behind me, it was a harmless precaution that prevented me from running into a herd of deer and getting rear-ended by a tailgater. Another important tool in unearthing intuition is to journal these events in detail. Be sure to include all the thoughts and feelings you experienced at the time. By recording and rereading them, you'll soon be able to start to tell the difference between a trigger and a premonition. A major advantage, or challenge, depending on your point of view, of being exposed to the increase in frequency is that it brings up the past history and puts pressure on all our old patterns and triggers and defenses. These restrictions are firmly lodged in all 4 levels of our being: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. On the physical level, we hold old trauma in our body in the form of what some have referred to as miasms. These restrictions are left untreated. They not only cause localized pain and illness, but are also passed down genetically. One strange property of a miasm is that when accessed by, say, through body work or massage, or for that matter, simple body positioning, they can bring up memories and feelings associated with the original trauma. When activated, these past experiences are so vivid, it's next to impossible to tell them from intuition in the present. On the emotional level, past trauma can be triggered by a similar stimulus in the present. One of my clients had a volatile, abusive mother who always wore rose perfume. As an adult, the smell of roses would trigger him into an extremely emotional response. Until we worked with it and uncovered the stimulus, he was unaware his panic attacks were brought up by the smell of roses. They seemed to come out of nowhere, leaving him feeling young, victimized, and unable to make decisions for fear of drawing attack. He translated his fear of attack as something bad about to happen in the present, rather than a past event. On the mental level, any experience, particularly a traumatic one, when repeated, creates a neurological association that becomes a ruts. This causes a knee-jerk stimulus response reaction that can be extremely debilitating. When triggered into the neurological ruts, we're living, perceiving, and responding from the past rather than the present. Again, it's impossible to access intuitive information about current events when locked in past trauma. On the spiritual level, when exposed to trauma, we tend to disconnect from the frequency we were expressing at the time it happened. This is known in shamanic circles as soul loss. Now, we never lose our soul, but we do disconnect from frequencies and expressions that we have deemed dangerous. A simple example of this would be a 2-year-old being severely punished every time they said no. Age 2 is a phase in our development when we learn to set boundaries. A person suffering this damage may feel extreme danger anytime they're confronted with setting limits. This aversion can easily be mistaken for intuition of clear and present danger. Taking all of this into consideration, it becomes clear we tend to spend an amazing amount of time triggered into past events. As long as we spend so much time in the past, we're much less present to interact with and develop our intuition. Across the ages, in the absence of shamanic healing, the tried and true method of dealing with trauma was to stuff it and go on. During times of lower frequency, this was somewhat effective. However, as individuals and as a species over time, we've accumulated quite a bit of unprocessed trauma. Currently, the rapidly increasing frequency is bringing additional pressure to bear on all the places we're locked down, on all 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. If we don't deal with the backlog, we're not only unable to tell triggers from intuition, but will become increasingly overwhelmed, disoriented, and even delusional. The key here is to stay in process, work your stuff, so to speak. The more processed we become, the clearer access we have to intuition. The better we know ourselves, our patterns, defense mechanisms, and limitations, the more aware we are when receiving vital information that may very well save our lives. Thank you for joining me, Gwilda Wiyaka, on the Stairway to Heaven, where we provide updates on the energetic currents facilitating our evolution into conscious, powerful co-creators. Until next time, may you be blessed on your sacred path to wholeness. We are here. The time is now.